What's up, everybody? We're back for the It's Me, Larry B podcast. I'm Larry B.
I'm Nellie G.
We've got a crazy guest today. It's going to be an awesome show. True legend. Let's go. Let's watch this quick intro.
Let's go. Let's go. Come on.
Welcome to the It's Me, Larry B podcast with Larry B and Nelly. Let's go!
Ice cream's touching you strong. Let me introduce you to the sauce. Let me introduce you to the sauce.
All right, everybody. It's me, Larry B. We're back. Today on our show, we've got the jockey, John Court. What's up, John?
Everything's good. I am the retired jockey, actually. So
Yeah, retired now.
43 years in the thoroughbred industry, but I've been enjoying retirement.
You enjoying it?
Yeah, it was time for me to step away from racing. I had a very good career for 43 years, and I was on the racetrack long before that. I spent over 45 years on the backside of the racetracks around America and even overseas, and it's been good, but it's time to move on.
Almost 4,200 winners for $115 or so million.
Yeah.
And that just counts your stats in this country. So, yeah, I mean, a legend. Gentleman, he was always known as a gentleman of the horse racing business. Everybody loved John Court.
Everybody still loves John Court.
Right. Yeah. I get that all the time. Where's John at? When's John going to come around? But, yeah, so we're here today. We're just going to talk about some things. I know you miss the racehorse business a little bit. Huh?
Oh, yeah, there's a lot of things I miss, and I enjoyed it, and I get to reminisce. So some great memories, but things have changed, and it was time to move on, and I wanted to step away while I was healthy enough to do just that, walk away on a good note, and, I have no regrets.
I know. I look back now, and I think he could still probably be leading rider at some of these tracks across America at 60-something years old. You still got it, man, still fit. It's crazy, a fat guy like me, to think about how fit you still are at your age. It's kind of inspiring. When I get around you, I want to get a little more fit, but I'm lazy, so I don't. But
Well, I do stay fit. I make a very dedicated attempt to stay fit. I'm probably stronger now than when I was riding, for that matter. But I got to stay fit, hoping that one day I can get behind your boat and, tear up the slalom.
yeah, I got that video. We should put that in the podcast. But, so you're a young kid, right? Did you have horses on your farm when you was a kid?
We did. We had backyard horses, and there were thoroughbreds in some of the neighboring farms and state riding stables, retired thoroughbreds. And I was always infatuated with the thoroughbred, and I made a decision when I was very young. It was something I wanted to pursue or attempt to pursue, and it turned out to be a successful choice.
How old was you when you knew, man, I want to be a jockey?
Well, that's the crazy part. I was probably about 6 years old. I don't even think I was 6 years old because I remember watching on a black and white television we had some racing, and I was like, that's me. Because I was always riding a spring horse we had, and I tore that thing up. My dad had to repair it several times, and yeah, it was quite the experience from the time I made that decision to pursue a childhood dream.
So when you started, was there a jockey you looked up to, or?
Well, yes, I was always infatuated with Ron Turcotte. He recently passed away, and I loved Secretariat, as well as I got to watch as a teenager Stevie Cawthon rise to the occasion of fame and fortune. And he was always an idol of mine, as well as a few other riders that I was impressed with along the way.
Awesome. So you're growing up, you're riding horses, so you get old enough, do you go straight to the racetrack?
I went to the farms. The first opportunity I had, I was able to break yearlings in Ocala, Florida, and ride horses that were laid up, even take care of yearlings, brood mares, the weanlings, and got involved in the whole process on the farms and the training centers. But then when I went to the racetrack, I drove across country, landed at a track in Denver, Colorado called Littleton was the town. Centennial Park is what it was, and it's no longer there. But I've never turned back. I stayed on the racetrack from there till just a couple years ago.
Yeah, crazy. So you've, man, I know at one time you had records at Kentucky Down. You've got all kinds of records at Churchill, Oakland. Crazy. Would you had 800 winners at Oakland, I think?
I think so. Yeah, it was over 800.
That's fantastic.
You know.
What about the Japan Cup?
That was probably the most exciting and appreciative race experience in my entire career. I went over there, and it's not even recognized on Equibase. It was the richest race at the time. It was $2.3 million. And at that particular time, I was called by Ty Leatherman, and he asked me about going over there to ride a horse. Would I be interested? And my response was, when are we leaving? So they said they told me later on this. We knew this was our jock. But I was very fortunate to get it. We were invited over there, and I went over to ride it, and it was probably one of my best rides of my career. And I win just a photo finish against the favorite, leading rider of the country at the time, and had a great experience over in Japan, at Tokyo race course.
Still to this day, that's the only Japan Cup that's in America.
I think so.
It's the only one.
I believe
so there's a lot of
day.
Kentucky Derby trophies out there. There's a lot of Breeders' Cup trophies, but that's the only Japan Cup in America.
Yeah, I think I'm the only American that has that trophy in my cabinet.
Pretty cool stuff.
That's
Pretty
super
cool
awesome.
Stuff, man.
How long were you over there?
I had a week over there. We got there a little before a week. I think 8 to 9 days. It might have been longer than that, for that matter. But boy, I had a good time, and I was on a little tour. So every day they had something planned for me, and we just promoted racing, and it was a great experience. I did all kinds of things that I'd never dreamed, and it was during the Thanksgiving holiday here in the States, and I remember celebrating Thanksgiving, eating sushi and some of the foods. I have no idea what I was eating, but it was quite the experience. And
Yeah,
the people were lovely.
I mean, worst come to worst, the horse was a long shot. So worst come to worst, you get a free trip to Japan, right? I mean, you got nothing to lose out of the deal. I always tell her I'd like to go to Japan. I think the technology they have now would be cool, but world's a little crazy right now. We're going to see if everything settles down, and we might make that trip.
I hear it's super duper clean and friendly and
It was in Tokyo.
safe.
Yeah, safe. They take care of it, take care of the people well. At least what I had able to observe. It was a great experience, and I was impressed with the way they do a lot of things in their country, including their racing. So it was like another level up, several levels up on racing, the way they take care of the people
That's awesome.
and the horses.
Unreal. Yeah, I mean, man, horse racing took you a lot of places in the world. That's awesome. That's super cool. So you're young, you got the passion now. You go to Colorado. Do you start winning races right off the bat?
No, I was an exercise rider, and from that racetrack, I went to Phoenix, and I was exercising horses all the way out to California at Santa Anita as an exercise rider. And then we worked our way back, and the following summer of 1980, I took out my jockey's license mid-meet, or maybe right after a month or two the meet had got started, and started winning races and never looked back.
So you started out pretty quick, and you started out in Florida?
I started galloping horses at the farms in Ocala, Florida, and Ron Warswick's place. Now it's Dream Farms, I believe, but before that it was Sunny Grove Farms, Ron Warswick. And he gave me the opportunity, and forever grateful. And from there on, I left there and went to the racetrack, as I said. And, of course, I've had some ups and downs throughout the career, but there were times I thought I was done, but I was always able to return. And the one thing about the racetrack, they do like a return. Somebody makes a comeback, so they always showed support. I was back on horseback. The horses were always there, always somebody willing to give me the opportunity to ride, and I start winning races, quite a variety of racetracks around the country, and I was able to obtain some top jockey titles, so that was a great experience.
So injuries are crazy for jockeys, right?
Yes.
How many bones you broke? You think
I
already?
really don't know the number. I think I counted it up one day, and I again filed that away, not to remember. But,
that in the back of
like
your
for
head.
example, when you break your back, it's not just one fracture; it's multiple fractures, and I've had 3 experiences there. And I was laid up quite a bit, but the one that took me out the longest was my knee. But I took the time, had the surgery, and the knee came back, and it's never given me any problem other than the orthopedic surgeon said your running days are over, because that's how I used to keep my weight down and keep fit, was running. But I could run, but he was right. I could not run very far before the knee was let me know, hey, we don't do this anymore. But outside of that, the knee gives me no trouble. I just know not to push it. And I did follow some instruction of how you got to build it up and eat differently, and just the knee will it did refurbish itself in its own way, but to this day, it will flare up if I run anything as the distance of a mile. I can go about 3/4 of a mile, and I can start feeling the inflammation.
Wow.
That's why you ride a bike everywhere.
Yeah, so I moved over to riding bicycles.
If that's what it takes to stay fit.
That's right.
So you're rolling along now. You're starting to win some races, and when do you think, man, I'm starting to make it? You know.
Yeah, I would have a great meet, and the next season or the next location, it would be a struggle of some sort. Or I would come off a meet where I was riding and winning and in the top 3 at least. You don't always have to be the top jockey. I think I've been second leading rider probably 22-something times. I've been a leading rider 15, maybe 16 times. I got my last title, I believe, at 53 at Ellis Park in Henderson, Kentucky. But it was always good to be in the top category of riders, and there's a lot less pressure when you're the top rider. It seems like everybody vies after you, which is what they're supposed to do. As well as you have young riders that want to emulate you, which is good. You'd like to be a role model. And as well, though, you don't have the responsibility or the pressure so much as when you're a leading rider. There's other expectations to, for example, representing racing. You're a target and various reasons. People want to dethrone you, and other times they want to use that opportunity to promote racing or some kind of endorsement. So it can be beneficial, but burdensome.
Then you got the guys in the crowd that you just beat them at 38-1, and now they're mad.
Yeah.
Calling you names. I never understood that.
You have to walk through the crowd to get to the race, and then walk through it to go back.
I've been violated on numerous occasions and had a soda just missed my head.
Oh my gosh.
And I saw the can whiz by my head, but I didn't know when it hit the ground it was full. It's a good thing I was walking back with my helmet on, but I've seen people from the best that you could expect to the worst that you can't be prepared for.
You bum, you messed up my trifecta. I had it hit if you didn't get in there to third place.
It would have been $1 million.
I was in New York at Belmont one time, and I was going out, and someone said, hey, Corey, you suck. And I said, that's crazy. A guy just 10 feet away said I was the greatest and welcomed me here. So sometimes I'd mess with them, but once you give anybody attention, it's best to ignore them through the compliments when you're moving through the crowd. Because if they can get you to respond or trigger or anything, they will target you every time they see you.
Mm-hmm.
So
They'll be back there
just to get the
every time.
response. It doesn't matter if it's positive or dreadfully negative. They will. They love the attention.
I never realized when I first got in this game how mental it is for jockeys, and it really is. I mean, you can be fit to the T, but if your head ain't in the game, and then y'all fight a lot of little injuries that people don't know about, so you might be hurt and you're riding through it.
Conceal it.
Yeah.
The weight thing, you got to be.
Weight all the time. You got to watch everything you eat. So let's say this. There's a jockey out here that's probably going to be watching. He's 18, 19 years old. He's trying to make it. He's riding 2-3 horses a week. He's making $300 a week. What do you say to that kid that's trying to make it?
Well, if it's your passion, follow your dreams and be very careful on the decisions you make and listen to wise counsel. Sometimes we get a little eager or greedy, and it doesn't always turn out well. And some situations, your greed will rise you to the top, but at the end of the day, you find out you're alone, and you actually created havoc in a few relationships down the road. So I tried to be as loyal and a gentleman. I wasn't always a gentleman, but I learned long ago in my career, I just made a decision that that's what the longevity would be. And I felt like it was very important in my mind to build relationships instead of my bank account.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. You was always known as the nice guy. You know, a lot of these, you just be honest, I've seen a lot of jocks that weren't the best riders.
Yeah.
And they make it to the top because of one, hard work, dedication, having the right connections, you know, having the right personality. You can't, if you're mad and you got beat, you can't dip under the rail. You can't avoid these people. The relationships are more important than anything, and I think that's what I've seen jockeys do. That I've seen some of the best jockeys in the world, and they don't have a good attitude. They're mad after they got beat, and they, just like you said, they run relationships that might have been that next big winner, that next big greatest stakes horse. You know, as a jockey, you're always having to find horses because no matter how good a race you ride, a lot of times the trainers don't think so. So you're going to lose business. So you always have to be adding business. You know, it's a tough game, man. It's a tough game. See a lot of good riders come in and they can't make it.
I've seen a lot of talent that could not rise to the top for various reasons, and some of them were ethical reasons, so I would take my hat off. And then there were those that were willing to basically sacrifice some of the things that I would not agree to, and they would rise to the top on making decisions, and they've done really well with their career. But that's just part of the game and the persona. There are some of those out there that have some amazing charisma and are flamboyant and very social, and publicly they're a charm to be around. And at the same time, there are some that can rise to the top who really don't have much to say, who are very quiet, but they usually have some kind of a public forum that someone will speak for them, and their sports agents play a vital role these days. That
They do.
They've always been there, and they're not as regulated like most licensed people, but at the same time, they are very important, and they contribute to a lot of the success of the riders, and they're somewhat the unsung heroes.
Well, I've seen a lot of good agents that I feel like their jocks could have did a lot better. You know, jockeys are so worried about, you didn't walk around the backside, but the truth is that's really not as much of the game as it used to be. And for, you know, they see an agent that walks through the backside, and then they're 30 minutes later, they're in the racing office playing cards all morning, answering the phone. You know, if you got a jock that's got enough business like that, but even if they have enough business like that, why wouldn't you try to find more? I just never got that. So the game is tough. It's tough, and you see a lot of riders come in, they don't last long, they go back out, they can't make enough money to pay their bills. It's a tough game, and if you don't, it's kind of like the Hollywood. If you don't get that break, you know, one horse can make it for you.
That's true.
It can put you on the map. So,
yeah, I've had some careers where it was just a grind, and it would take that one big horse that would open up more opportunities. And you're right about the agents. Actually, if you are quite aware, there are many barns out there that actually have signs that say no agents allowed in the shed rows. So, but agents don't need to be on the backside, and that is part of the simple side of some riders feel like their agents need to be out there like the old school practice. But even then, it's really not necessary. Those agents know how to conduct themselves by far better than some people realize on a professional level, of just being able to communicate, know their horses, and know where their rider fits. And the trainers and owners and the connections of a lot of the people that make those decisions, there are race stable managers, they really appreciate that. And next thing you know, the rider might not even have to be there, but he'll be on some of the best horses in the barn.
I used to tell my jocks, they don't want to see me, man. They want to see you. They look at me as a pain. And, you know, just a quick story, but I had a female rider come up to me one day. She's doing the best she's ever done in her whole career. And she said, yeah, I'm going to fire my agent. I don't ever see him. And I said, I watched you go 0 for 60 at Ellis. You got this guy, and you just won a graded stakes. Now you're going to fire him. So they fire him, take a big agent. Career goes in the tank. Never has come back to where they was. So, you got to be smart with them choices. Sometimes the big agents aren't the answer. If these trainers don't want to ride you, it don't matter who your agent is. They're not going to. So there's got to be some popularity there, and they got to have some reason to ride, that they feel good about it. The big thing is, and people don't believe this, I've seen some riders that can't ride a lick, but they have a great personality. They go and they make friends with these trainers, and they put them on. And so it's not always about your riding ability.
Gotta have a good team around you.
Absolutely.
Always.
That goes with
Good
everything.
relationships, like we spoke of earlier.
Yeah. So you're rolling. You're starting to win some races. What was your first graded stakes win?
I believe it was, Humble Pie?
Something like that.
Something like Humble Clerk or something. Yeah, Jim Danaher, and he named all his horses Humble this, Humble that. And I went the Goldenrod.
Goldenrod.
I believe it was Churchill? No, where?
I'm not.
I can't remember.
It's been a long time.
Yeah,
ago.
but I remember from there, Jim would fly me around. It would be Oklahoma. I went out to California, Hollywood Park, I believe it was, and I got to ride for Jim for many years there. He was really good to me. But it opened the doorway to ride other horses and get some recognition around the country at some of these other racetracks. So when I did show up there, we remember you. You flew in and rode a great race. And it would open up opportunities. As you were mentioning earlier, I didn't have to necessarily rely on the agent, though I did put a lot of emphasis on having a proper agent. And I would just make the rounds to some of those trainers that I had crossed paths with, and they welcomed me and would give me an opportunity. And once you get to the winner's circle, it just starts opening up other doorways.
Winners breed winners.
Yeah,
They
more
do.
opportunities.
You can win a maiden nickel. And if you look good doing it, you can pick up some really big races. It happens sometimes. So now you're rolling. You're starting to win some stakes races. You spent most of your years there, Kentucky in the summer after that, and then Arkansas in the winter.
Yes.
Which that's how you got 800 and something winners at Oaklawn. That's huge. That's a record that'll be around for a while. I don't think people know what it takes to win one race, much less 800 at a track.
Well, yeah.
It's so hard. It's got to be your day. It's got to be the horse's day. It's got to be the trainer's day. The groom had to do everything right. It's got to be every day just to win a cheap race, much less a graded stakes. So then you show up in the big races and all the horses are good, So, now you're going. Rode the Kentucky Derby a few times.
Yes, I did.
Win the Arkansas Derby 2 or 3 times.
Twice. Rode
West
it.
Virginia Derby.
Twice.
Yeah. Win a lot of derbies.
Indiana Derby twice.
Nice.
Never the Kentucky Derby. That was the one that got away from me.
Yeah, I had my chances, the Derby, the Preakness. I made the lead on several times, but not enough to hold on to it. And the Belmont, that was fun.
So now you ride the Kentucky Derby. The last time you rode it, he was the oldest jockey in history to ride the Kentucky Derby, 58 years old. You got a legit shot.
Yeah, I think I was 59, to be honest with you.
Yeah, maybe.
And the last agent I had got me on I was the oldest rider to ever ride $1 million and win $1 million race. That last agent I had.
Who was that? Who was that?
It's me, Larry B.
We did it.
Yeah, he did a great job.
Race.
Great job.
Oldest jockey to ever win $1 million race. He is.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's pretty fantastic.
Still to this day, I push for you. I think a lot of people need to push for you, the Hall of Fame. Even though you never won the Derby, and I guess that's why they're gripe, but they can't give you the Hall of Fame. But, you're the only guy with a Japan Cup.
That's true.
All these guys, some of them, Gary Stevens, Mike Smith, they win 2-3 Derbies. But you know what? They don't have a Japan Cup.
No.
So, that's kind of a push. Hopefully one day they get you there. They're getting there. I know a lot of people that push for you to get in the Hall of Fame. Hopefully that happens soon. And so what's the secret to 40-something years. I don't know a whole lot of people
That stick with anything for 40-some years, let alone
just
something so hard and so
dedication.
much dedication.
You know, you got jockeys out here that don't ride past 45. They retire, and you're 62, I think, when you win the Oakland Handicap $1 million race.
Yep.
You're still winning graded stakes in your 60s. So what do you think the key was to keep you around all them years?
Well, we speak of commitment, dedication, and the passion as well. But I also did my homework. I would ride races. I'd go home. I'd work back out on Equicizer. One I would make. If I didn't have one, I would do these different exercises to stay fit and try to stay ahead of the game, not only physically, but I would break that down. I would do, from the time I was young, I learned about breathing exercises. I would try to do the things a lot of these other riders didn't do or weren't committed to do from what I was able to witness. And I was confronted by several of the riders that would see me do some and for example, I do stretches. I think 10 minutes of a good warm-up and 10 minutes of stretching is better than a 30, 40-minute workout. But I would include the workout, but stretching was a big factor, and breathing exercises. And this really maintained my fitness to where I didn't have to work out as much. But even that was somewhat of a burdensome. I got to do my bicycle, my breathing exercises, and things, and the stretching. So one rider one time said, "Man, it just hurts me to watch you doing all that yoga." I've never taken a yoga lesson in my life, but I have watched videos on certain types of stretches, and it did make a big difference. I was just dedicated to allow my career to go as long as it possibly could, to the point of being able to walk away when I decided to.
Yeah. Yeah, you were still winning races. And the thing about you, the one thing I'll give you props on, you rode an 80-1 like it was 6-5. You gave every horse a shot, and I think a lot of people respected that. That's one of the reasons you went so far in your career. Another reason is you won a lot of big races for little trainers.
Yeah, I was fortunate with that. It was always a challenge on every horse I rode, and from the time I was warming the horse up, especially when I got in the gate, I just wanted to move this horse up on every level. So when you would read the charts, it would be recognized, and it was recognized. People would review some of the films. They liked the way I rode. However, I did ride a lot of horses that were moved in a different class that was they were accustomed to running in and having success. So that didn't always turn out real well. But at the same time, it also worked for me in the long run that I could bring those long shots in when they were running out of class. Unfortunately, when they did win, they were expected to finish in that upper echelon in the same company, and that didn't always pan out.
You know, I think that's some of the reasons some of these jocks don't want to win on an 80-1 horse, because I noticed as I got to be an agent, if you win on a long shot, then everybody with an 80-1 wants to put you on it, hoping you'll win on their 80-1.
So you get all the long shot.
Yeah, that's true. They wanted the long shot jockey, and you would find yourself quite regularly in some of the races that it really wasn't. Some of these riders, as you mentioned, they would complain about being in some of those lower end, I would say the class races, lower class, but it's just, they're all very valuable animals. It's just a matter of skill and where they fit.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know, I've seen over the years, I see a lot of jocks that get on a long shot. They'll just take them on the front, burn them out, and then get out of the way and let them finish the race, and they still get their $80 or whatever. And, you know, they never really give the horse a shot. One thing I say, you always try to put them in a shot to win, because really you don't know how many times jocks maybe did that, right? So this horse, now he's got a little drop, he might be live. He might not have got a fair shake last out. So you always gave him a shot to get there, and I think that's why a lot of people respected you. And you was always known as the happy guy. You always had a good attitude. That was really, really.
That's nice to know.
Well,
there are some that may, not
dispute
agree
that.
with you. Yeah, they would disagree.
You can't make everyone happy.
No, you can't make everyone happy.
There's very few on the backside, I'd say, that have much bad to say about you, John. And you always known as the gentleman. Even when I was using AI to kind of come up with some questions for this podcast, Even AI knows you was the gentleman of the backside, and your reputation.
That's kind of
precedes you.
crazy.
Yeah.
I would be introduced several different titles, and the gentleman or the kindness. But I learned early on in my career to leave your emotions at home, and if they do come to work, you better put them in the trunk.
Yeah,
I was
lock
a
it up.
hothead in my 20s like anyone else, but some people push the envelope. And there are times that I have maybe pushed it a little too far on a political level, or even in the jocks room. There's a few things that happens in the jocks room stays in the jocks
Right.
room. So I've been able to witness some scuttles, should I say, or some things that some people didn't agree on or were upset with in a race. And I've been through a few of those myself early in my career, but I learned to be more of a businessman and a gentleman. But every now and then we all have a tendency to jump out of that basket.
Yeah.
Well, and it's crazy. Like basketball teams wouldn't go to the same
No,
locker room after, or
good point.
after the race or after the game. Here you all are. Go out there, give it your all, and you've got to walk through the crowd to get back. And then when you get there, you're with the people you just raced. I can't imagine that.
You're
The
locker to locker
tension
with
in
your
there.
competitor.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's pretty.
The guy
Very
you just
awkward.
bumped, the beat by a nose, might be in the locker literally right
next to you.
when get
Oh, I've had that happen many a time.
And so, yeah, you got tensions flare. People don't realize, $1 million race like the Oakland Handicap, that's $600,000 to the horse owner and $60,000 to the jocks. So that's tempers get there, right?
I'm sure.
Emotions.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to win, and when you don't, you got 12 horses in a race. 11 jockeys are ticked off, right? You know, so
Only one winner.
yeah, you got a lot of emotions. Even the winner gets 60,000, but the second place guy, he would get, the owner would get 12,000. He get 5% of that, so it's 60,000. Second place jockey gets 6,000. So even you run second in $1 million race, that's a big difference in money.
Yeah, it makes a big difference, and the clients would really appreciate to see the value and effort. And that was one of the things I made early in my career was try to beat. I don't care if it's fifth place. Back then they used to pay back a certain way. Now they pay all the way across the board for the owners, the people running the horses, in most racing jurisdictions. But I would always love to nail somebody right there at the wire for the next check. It didn't always make a difference to my pay, but it did for those that gave me the opportunity to ride their horse, and they appreciated it. And a lot of times they would show their appreciation, invite you to dinner, invite you over, or give you a little bonus check at the end of the week, which we would refer to as steaks.
Yeah.
Not the steak on the plate, but the steak in the wallet.
That's nice.
We've seen some crazy
Monetary.
stuff. I wasn't in the horse business as long as you, but I was in it a long time. And man, I remember a time, couple times this happened where two jockeys are going down the stretch and they're beating the total crap out of each other with the sticks, trying to knock each other off the horses. What is the funniest thing you've ever seen in a horse race?
Oh, goodness gracious. I'd have to really stir the memory there and try to reach in there and try. I've seen a lot of things. I remember riding races, and it was hard for me to ride something I would see. And I was in the race competing and riding my horse, but I was laughing so hard. I was getting dirt in my mouth. But I saw a rider, I don't even know, he's deceased now, and he could horseback out of Louisiana, Jeff, and his horse stumbled leaving the gate, and he just rode that horse all the way around there like John Wayne. Actually was in violation with under and over type swings, which they didn't call him in, but I think he almost won the race, and it was just so hilarious sitting back there watching. He had the speed horse, stumbled from the gate, and he just sat straight up, and his feet were dangling, and he was just riding wildly. And first time I ever experienced that, remember in the race just laughing at him. So, and I've seen other things. I experienced one time I brought out some old jock pants I had in my locker, and they were favorites. I was riding a stake race. I'd been saving these pants for over a year. I rode them. I washed them and bleached them. They were pristine white. But the key thing was I washed them and bleached to make them white, and then put them away for a year, and then got them out to go ride a race. Well, they had dry rotted. So by the time I was coming down the lane, I was literally riding in shorts, and they had just deteriorated. So it was hilarious. They were just in rags, and it was hilarious. I was embarrassed, but at the same time, people were like, "What happened to your pants?" They disintegrated during the race.
Yeah, I've seen a bug girl come in, ride one race, and go home. I don't think people realize what the kahunas it takes to really do this every day, 35 mile an hour. And man, I mean, we've seen some injuries, crazy.
Yeah.
You know, if a horse is starting to go bad, a jockey can kind of get in their spot to bail. But sometimes they just go bad, and you're down and riding, and that's when the injuries seem to. Collarbones are huge.
Yeah.
So many jockeys break their collarbones. Their arms, putting their arms out to land, ribs, backs. I mean, seen some crazy stuff. I've seen 2 jockeys literally. I never laughed so hard in my life. They're going down a stretch and just, I mean, beating the total living snot out of each other with their sticks. Some crazy stuff going on, man. You've seen some crazy stuff go on. I used to tell my jocks, if you go somewhere besides Churchill Downs, don't get on a horse until you call me and tell me that trainer's name. Because they're a lot more strict now, but it didn't used to be that way. They used to give anybody a license, and some of these horses were barely broke, right? They shouldn't have never been around a racetrack. So, man, I couldn't tell you some of the stuff I've seen over the years. I had one of my jocks get on one in Paris Pike, and the horse just flipped over backwards right into the block walls and the buildings.
Lord.
You know, these, it can be, it used to be the wild,
dangerous.
wild west. There's a lot more to it now. There's a lot more control over what's going on. They have cleaned the game up. They've made it, in saying that, when they clean all that up, it makes it so expensive for a person that you're seeing a lot of the little guys get out now, which is kind of sad.
That is true. They have cleaned it up to some degree, but I think they've taken it too far to where they've restricted the rider's ability to really give it his best effort to get the best results with the horse he's riding. So everybody's under the scrutiny of a certain type of restricted guideline, and which is fine, and the trainers are as well, and the veterinarians and the blacksmiths. But I think they've gone a little overboard with it, and at the same time, it has not really been the resolution for the troubles they've had in racing. So it's not contributing for the advancement to racing more than it's degrading what the true sport's all about.
I think they spend too much effort worrying about the horses being safe instead of the jockeys being safe. And that's kind of my opinion of the whole thing. You know, you never hear any stats about how many jockeys got hurt. But it's these people that want to control horse racing now the federal government's got involved, so it really makes it crazy. But you hear stats about how many horses died, but you never hear anything about the jockeys. And taking the sticks away from the jockeys, I think, makes it tough. Taking the pain meds away from a horse, or even trying to get rid of Lasix. These are things that, look, they didn't take the pain meds away from the jockeys, right? If they're hurting, they can't ride, they still get what they need. Yeah. But any athlete in this world, besides a horse, can medicate themselves as they need to perform to an extent. Horses get absolutely nothing. And I think there's too much put on that the horses are safe. Not that the horses shouldn't be safe. I'm not saying that. But there's too much emphasis put on that. Let's make the whole racing game safe and do some things different. So, it's a tough game, man. It's a tough game. And
it's very dangerous. Tell us about your foundation.
Oh, well, that's something I started when I first had the bug. And I was always the one thing I did complain and say we needed to do something for these riders that had paid the ultimate price and were in wheelchairs. I was exposed to even Ron Turcotte, Jackie Fires, which is his birthday today, And
Happy birthday.
Yeah, he was one of the first guys I first started riding, and he came in the jocks room in a wheelchair, and I started to realize these riders had no foundation or no kind of safety net for them. They were basically passing the hat. And there was some organizations that were helping them, but it would be just minimal, nothing that contributed to the real means of what it takes to pay bills and provide for your family or even yourself. So I just kept pushing, putting the right people in the right place, and we actually got something started in the early 2000s, but it wasn't recognized till 2006, which is the Permanently Disabled Jockey Fund, and it's pdjf.org. And we got the right people, and we were granted the permits and the license. And nonprofit. And to this day, we have close to 50 recipients that are paralyzed, and they get a monthly stipend that helps them with the cost of living. So it's something I'm proud of my career. I was able to push that.
Absolutely. That's something to be very proud of.
I know riders, they usually push for retirement, which was good. But that's really left to the individual. We don't have benefits. We had insurance for a while.
People don't understand that.
Yeah.
These racetracks push that expense away, right? We're not going to cover the jockeys. They're not employees of ours. They're 1099. They're not going to. We don't have health insurance. They don't have workman's comp.
That's
they
correct.
have no. Even when you get your license, you sign all that little liability away from the racetrack, right?
That's
so
correct.
not only do you not have any coverage, you don't have any options to go get paid, right? So if you get hurt at a racetrack, you have no way to go after the racetrack, the trainer, anything like that. That's all signed off on when you get your license. So I never understood that. Every employee, we went to a restaurant yesterday that's owned by the Brockheimers, and their waitress had 401k, health
plan,
insurance,
yep.
life insurance, dental. I was like, wow. But jockeys get no coverage, no race. There's not a racetrack in the country that gives you any coverage at all.
Well, there is a disability or hospital, and in some states there is a workman's comp for the rider on track. But outside of that, a lot of the policies, if a rider is going to have it as an independent contractor, he's going to have to provide for himself, which is what I've had to experience in my own health care, my own disability. And they're pretty much left out there to fend for themselves.
I've watched you be injured a lot, and we've had some fun summers.
Yeah.
When you got injured, time off. That's about the only way you get any time off. People don't understand that. You ride Christmas, or close to Christmas. You ride Thanksgiving, almost every holiday, because that's the days everybody's off work. So the track can draw a big crowd, right? So you work all them days. So the only really way you can get any time off to get hurt. Now, I remember one time, it was a Harley accident.
Yeah.
We had a hell of a summer that year.
Yeah.
That was all kinds of fun. But one time, I was there that morning, and you got run over by another horse. Smashed your hand in between two horses.
Yeah.
You got a bunch of rods and pins in that screw? In that
No,
hand?
there was nothing to put pins or screws into. My hand was basically mush, and they had to just reconstruct it. They actually did a harvest on my arm to get the tendons and whatever they could to braid the bones in position and hope for the best. And Dr. Coots, who's no longer with us anymore, he owned racehorses too for Kleiner and Coots, actually rebuilt my hand. And it's come back, it looks a little weird, but it works fine. And you probably wouldn't notice it unless by looking at it, but he did a fantastic job. I came back quicker than I was expected because I was very dedicated. And one of the toughest things that people don't know about the racing industry, and I would like to surprise them from time to time, what's the hardest thing about being a jockey? And I would say physical therapy. And I'd always get a strange look because out of my entire career, trying to make that come back and grinding through the physical therapy was quite a challenge. And it was difficult. But at the end of the process, it was rewarding.
Yeah. Everyone with an injury is like, oh, I just stopped physical therapy. I'm like, That's the worst thing you can do, or after a surgery. That's the worst thing you can do is stop your physical therapy because you're stopping your progress right where you stop. It's not going to progress anymore.
Yeah, and there's that unknown too. I mean, when you get an injury like that, you don't know if you're coming back. Now, how are you going to feed your family? What have you done? Where are you going to get money? Them are things that you got to think about. I know when that happened, you wasn't real sure you was coming back at all. And that hadn't come back pretty good. You won a ton of races after that. But when it happens, you don't really know, right?
Right. As the injury transpired and I realized what I had to go through, I pretty much thought my career was over. And as well as a lot of other people that they said he's done. And I was able to make a comeback, and with vengeance for that matter. But I was very fortunate that the opportunity presented itself and people allow me. Because sometimes when riders get hurt, people are a little reluctant. They're afraid they've got the fear factor. And so they think, he's lost his heart, or he doesn't have the courage, or one thing or another. But I was very fortunately to continue my career after I went through the physical therapy and got back to riding races.
Then there's times like Lina David. You ride your butt off. The horse was good, probably not that good. You got him qualified for the Derby.
Yes, I did. They held that opportunity open for quite a while, but as we mentioned earlier in the podcast, that the agents play a valuable role, and the people that were in the connections with Lineup David were able to secure that to get into the Derby. I almost got it, and I have gotten some. I've gotten a lot of horses to the Derby, such as Linus David, but that was a pretty interesting race. I just kept him on the rail, and that's the first time I won the Arkansas Derby. And John, I can't think of his name right off the hand. I know him like he's sitting right beside me, but he gave me the opportunity out of California because we had some success before, and he gave me that opportunity. I won my first Arkansas Derby, so I'm forever grateful.
Yeah, you win the Arkansas Derby, it comes up to the Derby Mountain, they took you off, put another jockey on. People don't realize the heartache that comes with things like that happening. I don't know the guy, and I know you probably friends with him, and you don't want to say anything bad, but karma kind of got him in the Derby, run dead last.
Yeah.
I never understood that. You got a guy that knows the horse, that feels good on the horse. Sometimes horses travel a little funny. You put another jockey on, and they might not want to let them run. There's a lot of differences. When you got a jock that got you there, why would you take him off? I never understood that game, but it happens every year. It happens every single year. There's horses in them big races every single year, and the jockey that got them there don't get to ride them. And I never understood that. I guess there's only 20 riders that's allowed to ride in the Derby, and you got to pick one of them. That's not true. I never got that. I never did. I never understood that.
Loyalty is rare.
It is.
As far as the commitment.
And as a loyal John Court fan, like I said, I don't know the guy. I know you don't want to say bad about anybody. I kind of laughed when he run that last. Not going to lie. Because it's karma. It's karma.
It is karma.
And they got what they deserved. And, that's kind of how life works.
Yep.
Yeah, I wish the best for him at the same time, but there is a sense of satisfaction when you see someone make a mistake. You're like, okay, he needs in good position. What's he doing now?
Yeah.
I would have kept him there, and it was costly. So I've seen that happen time and time again, and I too have been out there and made my fair share of mistakes.
That's why you're known as the nice guy of the backside. I would have been over there like, ha, you run dead last. Yeah. Should have kept me on there.
We know.
But that's me.
We know.
I like to stir the pot a little bit anyway. So.
Split second decisions, and I mean split second.
It is.
A horse can travel 5 strides in 1 second. So.
And listen, man, I knocked this guy, but let's be honest. Probably his first shot to ever get to the Derby. He's thinking he wants to do the best thing he can do to try to win the thing. And, he did what he thought he had to do in the time. And that's what you got to do. And the decision didn't work out for him. But, I don't knock people like that. They got to do the best. But loyalty is a good thing. And, that horse running last in the Derby probably picked you up a lot of mounts. That's a big thing. You know, people don't realize sometimes it might not be a better rider or not. It might just be that rider clicks with that horse a little better. You know, maybe they have a connection that a different way, less aggressive, or, you know, I remember you winning a couple of races when I was your agent with no stick, and people would say, and you'd say, man, if I hit him, he wants to dart away, or, you know, he'll want to quit on me. But if I just ride him with my hands, you know, they'll run on. So knowing the horse can be huge, you know, and making a decision like that last minute right before the Derby. Don't give time for the jockey to know the horse, to get to know the horse, to ride a race. Can make a big difference in where the horse finishes. And we're not talking about, you know, back then the Derby was probably $1 million. It wasn't like it is now, but still a lot of money.
A lot of money. And you're right about that. Sometimes it does really pay in dividends to know the horse. And then on the same note, it pays to not know the horse. Just like when I went to Japan, I really didn't know much about the horse, and it paid off really well. Other than what they could tell me, they didn't tell me how to ride the race. They just told me the specifics about the horse, what he likes, what he responds to, and you would get to study the past performances. But at the same time, it can work against you too. You get a little too confident, or you think you know something that ends up backfiring on you. So.
Yeah, and you get, you know, now the riders got a lot more information that when you was younger and riding, you couldn't go in the jock's room and watch every replay, right? There's a lot of differences now that you didn't have when you was in your career. And people look at 114 million. This is what irks me about the Hall of Fame. You know, like we just said, you know, the Breeders' Cup's now $7, $8, $10 million. Back when you was riding them races, it was $1 million. So, you know, 114 million from where you came from, man, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. And a lot of cheap horses. You win a lot of cheaper races. You win a ton of graded stakes. You know, I would think it's something they'd have to think about. Now, so you when you went to California to ride, did you go there just to be on the show, or was you already there and then they put you on the show?
Actually, I was out there to ride for an owner, specifically the Leathermans, and Doug O'Neill was the trainer. I was invited to come ride almost everything they had. And I went out there and got a nice taste of success right away, and I made it my home for over half a decade. And the show just came about on some producers that came out, and they wanted to actually put together a reality show. It's reality, not actuality. So we were able to create as much reality as we possibly could and put it together. And it was a lot of fun, but it also took a lot of your spare time. But there's a lot of stories there that.
What's the name of the show?
It was Jockeys.
Jockeys.
And it was. I think we were filming it in 2006 through 2007. It hit the Animal Planet network. I think 2009. So I was visiting with the producers. They were wanting. I said, let's do it. And one of the reasons they came to me because they tried to do it here in Kentucky. And they reminded me, you don't remember us, do you? We showed up at Ellis Park trying to get our dream launched to make this TV. And I did remember them when they reminded me. I do remember I spoke with you sitting at Ellis Park on a picnic table one time. They were like, that's right. So it was 10 years later or more, and then they still had the dream to pursue of making this TV series. They were able to launch and sell it to Animal Planet. It's been on the airways over the years, and it was quite an experience. Had a lot of fun doing it.
That was cool. You met some cool celebrities, and all that was going down.
Yeah.
A lot of big jocks. It was on 2 years? I think it was on 2 years.
Yeah, 2 seasons.
Yeah, cool. Did so you went out there to ride, and then just happened to get up on the show. So did you make like $8 million for being on that show?
No, we didn't. I don't think it was set up with that big of a budget, for one thing, and second, it didn't. We didn't get the best right royalties, so we just got paid a flat fee. So it was quite the experience, and you literally had to audition for a particular part. There were some guys that landed parts that then ended up retracting their contracts, so they were never on the show, but yet they had an enormous amount of footage. So they were grasping to get some more footage, and we were able to get the show launched and get it sold, and then it made it to the network. So, it's something else I was proud of. I mean, some of the shows, the material was questionable, but then there's some of it that's pretty good, in my opinion.
I guess that would make me nervous, but you've had cameras following you around pretty much your whole life, so I sit here and think how many interviews and commercials you've done and stuff all over the years, and we go. I remember one time, it probably wasn't the best time in life for either one of us, and I said, "Come on, let's just go to the lake. Nobody knows you down there. We'll go down there and hide." And we jump in the lake, and we're sitting there swimming, and somebody swims up and says, "Aren't you John Cord?"
Can't take me anywhere.
I noticed you got the beard now. I said,
Yeah.
I told Nellie, I said, he's over there hiding behind that beard. Nobody knows who he is.
Yeah. I had to shave twice a day practically through my entire career because I got a pretty good beard here. But, and then I would hit that sweat box and I would get in there and shave, pull a couple pounds and get a real close shave. So the day I retired, the day I quit dragging that razor across my face. And I may take it off one day, but right now I've been experimenting the different.
I like it. I think it's cool.
Changes and things I could do. And
Man, I mean, once you retire as a jockey, you got to think, man, now I can eat what I want if I want to eat something. Because you told me one day, Larry, you're fat, not because of the hamburger, but it's because of the ketchup and the mayonnaise and everything you put on
condiments.
there. Yeah. So, man, just being able to retire and put condiments on your burger.
Yeah.
Man, stuff like that's got to be able to grow a beard because you really, it's not saying you can't have a beard to be a jockey, but you're trying to ride, you're flipping goggles down, and so much going on. It's really hard to grow a beard. So now, there's got to be a lot of things that you enjoy now that you couldn't do for years.
That is very true. In fact, the diet, I did have to struggle with the diet because people saw me as lighter than I was, but what they didn't know, the scale spoke differently.
Yeah.
So I did have to diet, and then after 20 years in, you have to do that. In fact, I've seen people that just could not push away from the table, or I love to eat too much, and they walked away from being good riders and had everything going for them, but they just couldn't make the weight, and they said they weren't going to starve themselves. They were going to eat, and that's one of the things they enjoyed. They were not going to sacrifice that, and they give up that career. But my point is saying within 20 years, it became a lifestyle. And the downside of that, now that I've retired, I was questioned just a week ago. I still see you diet. And I go, really, it's a way of life. And then once I did retire and think I could splurge a little bit, my body wouldn't agree to that. I still have to be careful.
I bet.
I've lived, again, it was something else that I was dedicated of eating. I wasn't a vegetarian. I tried that and different diets, but at the same time, my body became sensitive to what I would say was eating clean, because I would avoid a lot of the oils. You always need some kind of oil, salt, and sugar, but at the same time, I was eating such a restricted intake that when I did splurge a little bit, it didn't agree with me at all. So I still have to be careful, but I do get to eat a little more steak from time to time and have that. A few little
You're not
desserts.
waking up every day and stepping on a scale and going, man, I can't eat today, or I got to wait till after I ride. I can't eat anything till it's 5 o'clock today. That makes it tough. And a lot of people don't realize what the jocks go through. So, I've seen jocks when I first became an agent or owner, I would be like, man, they're 38 years old. They got false teeth.
Yeah.
Because every time they eat, they have to eat to get rid of the stomach pain, and then they go get rid of everything they ate to keep the weight down.
They would purge.
Yes. When you do that, all that acid will rot your teeth. So you get a lot of jockeys have fake teeth. A lot of jockeys are bigger. You see a lot of jocks come in, they make the weight, like you said, 18 to 25, they'll make the weight, and then it gets harder and harder and harder every year. Keeping that weight down. Bug riders can be 110 pounds. Sometimes they got to be 110 pounds with the saddle in their hand. You know how hard that is with all your clothes on, your saddle in your hand.
I do know how hard that is.
So that's why I never planned on being a jockey.
Yeah, that's one reason.
That
Yeah,
was
many
one
people
reason.
have outgrown that ability. They had some great talents, but they just naturally, Father Time takes over and Mother Nature, they outgrow their ability to be of the right proper size. But I've seen also young riders that were not quite mature yet, and they would come in, drink the soda pops, and there's nothing wrong with that. And even candy bars or certain things in the diet that I strictly would avoid. But down the road, that would catch up to them because they weren't showing the early on discipline. And then their career would come to the end because, again, their bodies started maturing to a level to where they weren't used to the diet, so to speak, or the way of life, what I call it now. And it would catch up to them. But from the time I left home, I was real strict about diet. My mother really put a big emphasis on that. And later on in life, it paid off really well.
Yeah, I'd say that's the number one reason jockeys retire is fighting weight. That's a tough gig, always a tough gig. So what would you say is the hardest part that the public don't see about being a jockey?
Oh, well, I mentioned earlier physical therapy, but I think to expand on other areas would be just the dedication. You're up before the crack of dawn. You've got to be out there, and it's just something that you discipline yourself to the point of where it's almost punishment. You can't eat, you're training, and if you do eat, it's very little. I would use supplements. Even honey would be a supplement. And I was not a honey fan. Now I love it to goodness gracious. I love honey. But just something like that, certain supplements that would help you get the calories you need on a very low, strict calorie intake. Some riders don't have that problem. But what the public don't see is that it's 7 days a week, and you try to find a day off or time off. As you mentioned earlier, you don't get time off unless you're injured or you get suspended. But my kids would complain because I would leave before they got up for school, and then I would be back home after they were in bed for school. So later on in life, that was something they said that I wasn't around, and they realized that, hey, that was my career. I was committed to it, but they loved Pops when he was around because we took advantage of it, skiing, water skiing, snow skiing, camping, and just things I would dedicate time to the kids. So
People don't understand that as a jock. So you decide, I'm done. I'm going to take a 2-week vacation. So you go out of town 2 weeks. Now you lost your whole 2 weeks worth of horses. Yeah. Some other jockeys got them, and you're probably not getting them back. So it really makes it tough for you guys to take some time off. That would be the hardest thing for me. And like I tell her, I would probably still be a jock agent, but why do they have to do it so early?
Yeah, it is early.
Why do they have to do it so early in the morning?
Yeah,
I mean, they're riding before the sun comes up.
Well, they do that because of the heat
Yeah.
or the weather, right?
Yeah.
You get up in the morning, you get out there and get the horses out before it gets, really hot. And that's just how the horse racing's been set up. But you know me, I'm not a morning person, so I really, really struggle to get up that early and get out there. I would probably still be a lot more involved in the horse racing if it wasn't so damn early.
You got up and went a
Can't they
lot.
train at night? Why couldn't they train
They
from
do.
like...
They train in the dark when such places as Churchill, for example, has a great lighting system. So they do train early. I mean, that track opens up at 5:30, and you've got to be there to have things lined up. So
Maybe we should start try to push to get training hours from like 8 to 12. I'd be a lot better at that.
there are some places that do train later. Oaklawn, for example, in Hot Springs, Arkansas, trains at 7 in the morning because they don't have a light system. And it's just according to their policies that they will not train in the dark.
Yeah, horses are walking on the track at 5 at Churchill.
Yeah, and then you come to
5 a.m.
Kentucky, and you go from getting up at a different hour to 2 hours earlier, and it's quite the change. There's some great things about Kentucky, but at the same time, there's some things that you better be tied on because you got to be there early, and then there's racing all day, and races go well into the afternoons. So it's
Then you got some tracks, sometimes y'all have night racing.
night racing,
So
twilight racing.
You don't get done racing till 10. By the time you get dinner, get home, because you haven't eaten all day probably.
Right.
And now you get dinner, you get home, it's 12 o'clock. And now they're wanting you there at 5 a.m. to breeze horses.
That's right.
So now you got to go home, take a little nap in between till races come back. But they could have night racing on Thursday and day racing on Friday. So you're there till 10 o'clock. You're back breezing horses at 5 a.m. And then you're racing again at noon. So it's very, very strenuous. And I watched a lot of scared jocks, and I don't blame them. I don't know if I could do it. You got to be kind of a thrill seeker to do that job, and very dangerous. And you see your friend that you're with every day just get destroyed. A horse breaks down, they fall off, things happen, they get hurt, and guess what? You got to get right back up there and do it again.
Right back out there.
It takes a mindset.
Yeah, you're right. Thrill seekers, daredevils,
Yeah.
challenges, and risk takers as well. But and some of my injuries are from that, not just the horses, as you mentioned earlier. I've been hurt on real horses, steel horses, water skiing.
Yeah.
I never got hurt snow skiing, but almost a couple times come close. So that was one that I dodged a bullet, snow skiing. But I used to, as you mentioned earlier, I would take my family and go on vacations, and it did cost me at the track. Some people were bitter about it. And they're, it must be nice. It is nice. Spend time with the family. Always felt like the horses would be there, so I would have to go back and just rebuild. But it would cost me mounts. But I felt like family was first, and there were times that it was hard to pull away from the racetrack, but at the same time, my family was more important, so I wanted to dedicate to committing some time, quality time, undivided time to my children and my wife at the time. So we would travel and do things, or just stay home and maybe do something locally.
Yeah. It's so tough for you guys to get time off, and it's so tough to start over. And even though you got a trainer, say he's got 5 horses, he loves you, he's your best friend. Now, you've been off for a month, you got hurt, you come back, he's buddied up to another jock. It's hard for him, even being your friend, to take that jock back off them horses, especially if they win on them, give you the horses. So if they, let's say 1 or 2 of them win, that's the 2 best out of the 5 they got that you're probably not getting back. It just makes it tough. So what about this? This is probably going to be a hard question. What is the fastest, the best horse you've ever ridden?
Well, there are several out there, but everybody knows who's close to me. I always really appreciated Wise Dan. And there's some top riders, Hall of Fame riders that got to ride him. But I had the opportunity to swing a leg over him and had success with him. But he was just, he knew what he was doing. That's what made him a champion. And he knew that how to get the job done. He knew what he was doing, very professional. And you just were the passenger. So don't get creative. Let him, if he wanted to move on the backside, let him move. If he moved when he opened up out of the gate, and just sit still on him and follow through on what you're hired to do. But he was quite the experience of many I think of often. Again, be Wise Dan.
That's, I know a lot of people talked about Wise Dan. There was a few of them that you've ridden on there that I looked through your list that were stone cold runners. Is there one that was just like a speedball?
Oh yeah, I've ridden several horses that had the ability to be right out of the gate on top, and it's just a matter of getting them to quiet while they were there, not to go burn themselves out, and have something to finish with. And sometimes I could fool some of the riders. They knew that this horse was going fast, and then it most likely the percentages that the horse will tire and come back and they can get by them. But I could get the horse quiet. I'd have my hands quiet, and I would falsify the fractions, where some of the guys, they would think I was riding faster than what we were really going. So I was actually keeping a little bit in the tank by getting the horse to relax So he had plenty left, or she would have plenty left to finish up in front of the field.
I watched you do that so many times.
Yeah, and they're like, Court stole another one. So,
You get to the lead, and then you can control the pace.
Yeah.
And I've watched you do that so many times. So you get to the lead kind of quick, then you control the pace. You slow your horse down and save some to get home.
I had an experience here at Churchill, and it went over to Keeneland. And then we were at Delaware one time, and the trainer, when we were getting ready to put the jockeys, brought his rider over to me, and he started instructing his rider right there in front of me, and I knew that I couldn't beat this horse, but I was beating it. I was tricking the rider. He felt like he could always get by me, but again, I was keeping the horse quiet enough. And he said, when you get to the backside, you get him and you look him in the eye. Do not sit off of him like you've been doing these were stakes races. So it was quite the experience. And I knew right then and there when we were going down the backside that he looked me in the eye, and I was like, yeah, this horse, I can't outrun him anyway. I shouldn't have been beating her in the first place, but the rider would sit off me thinking he had me measured, which was a mistake. And I loved it when those kind of races would transpire.
Like,
But,
yeah.
yeah, the trainer David, I try to avoid saying last names here, but the trainer David at Delaware Park come over and told his rider, Joe, to stay by me and down the backside before we got to the first turn. You look him in the eye. I knew right then and there that I was beat. But I went out there to try to beat him and trick him up again. But after being beat at Churchill and Keeneland, I guess he was pretty much humiliated. He told me later on that I just couldn't figure out how I know I can outrun you, and I couldn't get by you. But when I rode that particular mare, I had the ability to get the best out of her and sometimes trick those riders. So it's just a strategy, and it's all legal, and it's just outsmarting them and outriding them. I've had it done to me a numerous amount of times by some of the best riders recognized in the country. So you learn from that, and you try to utilize what you learn, and it pays well in the end.
Good deal, good deal.
And then we have to show up in the jocks room, and they're like, Corey, you got me again.
Dang
Got
it.
me.
You look like you were done. I said, that's the best part. And
You fell for it.
yeah, my wife Rosemary said, I used to love that, to see you go out there and I can tell you're tricking them. They think you're riding and you're not riding. You can see the horse's action that he's relaxed, but you're making it look like you're done. And Sue Thomas said that. She said one day, I don't know how people miss that, but it's just like you get out there and you taking the candy out of the baby's mouth, literally out of their baby mouth. And I love watching you ride. So Sue Thomas was always really good, but she could point out some of my little tricks that I thought were concealed. I had one agent say, you go into this morph and no one can see it, but I can tell that you're tripping those riders up, and they fall for it. Because if they don't, and then they get beat, well, they'll get an earful. So I've had other trainers come to me and owners say, man, I chewed on my rider. How could he sit there and not see that? Well, he's behind me. I'm probably throwing dirt in his face. So what you're watching on the big screen, they don't see. So
You mentioned throwing dirt in the face. How many goggles do you wear? If it's rainy or muddy out?
I fortunately wouldn't wear as many as some of the guys wear. In the Derby, I'd wear 5 the most, but I was normally wearing 3 goggles. But I also had a deeper seat than a lot of these riders today, especially. I get asked that frequently. Why are the riders riding so high? It's just a new style. And once a rider is recognized around the country and doing all the good with a great agent and going around the country riding all these horses, a lot of riders will emulate that style. But back in my day, you were on your belly. You had to be like a lizard on a log or a flat as a pancake on the griddle. And they didn't want to see you up high. Wind resistance and things like that would always come into factor. But that doesn't seem to be such an emphasis of today's racing.
All right, everybody, let's take a little break. We'll be right back with John Court.
Welcome to the future of title insurance. At Perpetual Title, we look for solutions to close, not reasons to delay. We're dedicated to revolutionizing the title experience with smart and secure processes that keep you ahead in today's fast-paced market. Schedule your next closing with us. Learn more at perpetualtitle.com.
Hey, everybody, we're back with It's Me, Larry B, and John Court.
Yeah, so Had to take a little break. Sometimes you got to do that. But so what do you think? Now you're retired, man.
Yeah,
you love
I'm
it?
retired. I am loving it. When I first retired, I said, now I don't have to do anything or be anywhere. And it kind of backfired on me. I started getting lazy. I got out of shape. I put on ridiculous amount of weight. And my breathing was I got to do something. So I become very active once again. But I prepared before I retired. I went to real estate school, amongst other many courses I had taken to stay current. Been fortunate enough to move some properties and have some great experiences, and also get to spend a little more time with family, which has been enjoyable. And I get to still work with the horses on my own accord. So I get to ride horses. I've been invited to go ride horses at different states, and I've been able to really enjoy it more than I dreamed. It wasn't just a job. So I was able to venture off and ride some exciting horses, and I still love doing that.
So what's it like to ride a horse that's not crazy?
Oh, it's a pleasure.
Where you
like
just
someone
get to lay
said,
back?
Yeah, they said, what's your favorite speed? I said, now walking. Just going on trail rides, and sometimes I go on trail rides with my daughter-in-law, Karen Whittick, but it's really tough because when you ride with her, you better be prepared because you're going on a ride. She recently went out west, and they did a week ride out in Montana and Wyoming and wherever else they were off to for maybe 10 days with the Paynes, Dave and Connie Payne. But that looks like a vacation I'd like to try. But I know with that experience, you're going to come back sore. There's no way you can do that much riding, no matter how fit you are, without being extremely sore. I've heard about those rides before. They're great, but wouldn't want to do them again.
So you're back. You're doing real estate now. Sold a couple farms here lately.
Yes.
So all your people out there that got farms in Kentucky and they need an agent, they should call you.
Yes.
All they got to do is Google John Court real estate agent, right?
Yeah, John Court real estate agent. I've sold some farms. I've sold some residents, and my broker and I, we actually got to auction off with an experience in some commercial real estate. So that was an experience in itself.
That was pretty fun. That was pretty
was.
wild. You sold a liquor store at auction. And, that was pretty wild.
Yeah, it's
fun.
a great experience, and I've enjoyed it. But I've actually been more occupied and seemed to be more busier than I was when I was on the racetrack this day and age. So I want to be able to get out and do a few things and have some fun. But I've been invited, stay at the lake and go skiing, and I dream of that. That's one of the dreams I enjoy doing. But it's just a matter of making that decision and getting out there and taking some R&R. I'm ready for it.
That's what you got to do, man. That's what you got to do. You got to get to the lake, do some skiing.
Yeah, get behind that boat, get the slalom out, and start cutting the buoys. Don't get too crazy because, like I said, sometimes I get a little wild out there. But I have settled down with my daredevil lifestyle. But my wife, Rosemary, says not always. She reminds me, be careful, because I do have a tendency to push the envelope a little bit, and I feel like I'm in control at the time, but there are times that I was a little more out of control. But I like that excitement. It's the adrenaline.
Adrenaline junkie.
It's fun. It's enjoy life. You got to enjoy life. You finally get to retire. You don't have to get up at 3 a.m. and get to sleep in, put condiments on your burger.
That's right. I was experimenting with 4 or 5 condiments on chicken breast last night. I got the barbecue sauce, the duck sauce, the Tabasco sauce, and some of these sauces, I don't know what they were, some kind of strange mustard sauce. And actually, I went through Lowe's to pick up something I never do. I picked up some tools and supplies, and when I came out, a guy was selling hot dogs there. And I said, man, I've never stopped at a stand and got a hot dog.
But you can now.
And I
can.
did. And I was like, I normally don't eat this kind of stuff. But I was shocked how delicious it was. I put the mustard, the spice, and the sauerkraut. And I'm not a sauerkraut fan at all. But I'll tell you what, that was amazing there at Lowe's here in Shelbyville. So I highly recommend them hot dogs.
Good times.
Did you have it Chicago style? Is that how you did it?
I
Or
don't know
did
what
you
kind of style. It was definitely not like a hot dog you buy in the store. That thing was, I thought I would come home and share it or save some for later. But I started in on that thing, and I rarely would eat that much, but it didn't seem to bother me. But I might swing back there to find a reason to go by Lowe's again. I haven't had a hot dog, and I can't remember. But
When done right,
maybe
they're
the last time I
delicious.
was at the lake, we had a barbecue. I did
Probably.
eat some hot dogs.
Maybe.
Yeah.
You're always down there. You're trying to eat quick. You know, you got so much going on. Speaking of that,
What?
cookout. Yeah. So thank you guys. We appreciate you. It's me, Larry B. Don't forget, we coach real estate agents. It's me, LarryB.com. Investors and real estate agents there. We have coaching. Check us out. Thanks, John, for being on.
Thanks,
One of my
John.
dearest friends.
Thank you.
The man's got a heart of gold. John Court. Check him out. Thank you guys for coming on. Thank you, Miss Nellie.
Thank
Fun
you.
day. We'll see you guys next time. It's me, LarryB.com.
And me, Larry B. Media. Hooray!